A biting wind swept down the empty avenues of Midwestern dusk, rattling plastic bags and stirring the last yellow leaves into restless dance. Under the harsh glare of a lone street lamp, Sam Taylor, once a proud Marine, pulled his threadbare jacket tighter, knees sinking into a wall of shivering cold. His ribs ached beneath each breath. Hunger pinched at his gut like a relentless hawk, yet pride stopped him from scrounging the trash bins. Sam's eyes, once sharp with purpose on foreign battlefields, now stared blankly at the flickering neon sign of a closed convenience store. O'Connor's closed. He had made this same trek each evening for weeks, hoping to find a discarded sandwich or a warm cafe trash bag. Tonight, nothing. Only the wind's lament and the crunch of his worn boots on cracked pavement. From an alley came a sound, a soft, ragged whine. Sam froze, heart thudding. Military instincts stirred. Scan, assess, approach. He stepped toward the noise. A stray dog emerged into the light. A thin, scruffy mutt, ribs stark against matted fur, tail tucked like a broken promise. Its eyes were wary, haunted, but in their depths lay a spark of recognition, as if Sam too bore the same unspoken wounds. The dog lowered its muzzle, whine softening. Sam crouched, offering a hand. "Hey there," he muttered, voice rough as gravel. He rummaged in his pocket and produced a dry scrap of bread, the only remnant of his last canteen meal. He broke it in two and held out a half. The dog hesitated, then approached, teeth trembling yet gentle. The small act of sharing ignited trust on that frostbitten curb. In that moment, man and dog found in each other a reflection of loneliness, scarred veterans both, adrift in a world that seemed to forget their service. As Sam watched the dog lap the bread, he whispered, "You need a name, don't you?" The dog paused, gaze lifting. Scout. And so a bond began. From that night on, Sam and Scout were inseparable. Scout, a scrappy and resilient dog, trailed Sam loyally through the city's underbelly, sticking close to his side, as if sensing the bond that had already begun to form. They navigated the dark, cold streets together, moving beneath grimy underpasses, where the homeless, desperate and broken, wrapped themselves tightly in crumpled newspaper and thin, tattered blankets. The harsh cold of the night seemed to seep through everything, but Sam and Scout kept moving, as if the world around them had forgotten them, but they would not forget each other. They passed by long-abandoned storefronts, their once vibrant, windows now grim and cracked, displaying lifeless mannequins dressed in dusty, outdated clothing. The mannequins stood motionless, mere ghosts of a bustling past, surrounded by the silence of emptiness. These empty spaces were once full of life, yet now they were nothing more than hollow remnants of something long gone. But through all of it, Scout remained a constant presence at Sam's side, lending an unspoken reassurance that Sam wasn't completely alone in this cruel, unforgiving world. One particularly cold evening, when the air felt like it could freeze a person to the bone, Sam found a flickering barrel fire to warm himself by. The fire's orange flames danced and crackled as they tried to push back against the bitter cold that hung in the night. Sam had managed to scrounge up a small, coffee-bought sandwich earlier in the day, and now he held it close to the fire, trying to warm it as best he could. The warmth from the fire provided only temporary relief, but it was enough for the moment. Scout sat close by, his sharp senses constantly on alert. His nose twitched and flared as he sniffed the air, picking up on every distant noise, every rustle in the wind. He sat still, his eyes scanning the surroundings, ever watchful, ever vigilant. It was as if Scout's body knew long before Sam did that danger might be lurking just out of sight. Suddenly, the peaceful silence of the night was shattered by the sound of approaching footsteps. Sam's body stiffened instinctively as his eyes narrowed, trying to make out the figures in the darkness. He could hear the faint murmur of voices growing louder, and his instincts told him that something was wrong. His heart began to beat faster in his chest as he realized the danger was getting closer. Out of the shadows, two figures emerged. Their faces were distorted with desperation, their clothes ragged, and their movements jerky as they stumbled toward Sam. Driven to the brink of desperation by hunger and fear, the two men made a rash move. They lunged toward Sam's small pile of belongings, hoping to steal what little he had. The robbery was born from a place of desperation, not malice, but that didn't matter to Sam. In this world, desperation could quickly turn dangerous. Sam froze. His hands instinctively rose in a gesture of peace, a silent plea for the men to stop before things escalated. He didn't want to fight. He just wanted to survive. The tension in the air was thick, and for a long moment, nothing happened. Everything seemed suspended in time as Sam and the two would-be robbers locked eyes. But Scout was not one to back down, not when his person was threatened. As soon as the men moved in on Sam, Scout's reaction was immediate. His body stiffened, his muscles coiled tight, and with a deep, low growl that seemed to come from the very pit of his chest, he leapt forward. Without hesitation, Scout placed himself between Sam and the attackers, his body a protective barrier, unwavering and steadfast. The hairs on his back stood up, his hackles raised in a display of aggression, and his teeth glinted in the faint firelight, sharp and threatening. His stance was one of defiance, not submission. Despite his lean and wiry frame, it was clear that he was no ordinary stray. He was a protector, a fierce and loyal companion, and he wasn't about to let these men get away with it. The attackers hesitated for a split second, caught off guard by the dog's fierce reaction. What had started as a simple robbery attempt was now facing a formidable obstacle. The men faltered, their resolve weakened by the unexpected threat. They had expected an easy target, but instead they were faced with a determined defender. Scout's growl deepened into a snarl, and his sharp bark rang out through the night air, cutting through the tension like a crack of thunder. The sound was fierce and commanding, the kind of noise that could strike fear into even the bravest of hearts. It was a warning, a clear message that they were not welcome here. The attackers, no longer willing to risk their lives over a few possessions, stumbled back into the darkness, retreating from the threat that had appeared so suddenly. Their confidence quickly evaporated, and they fled into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had arrived. Scout stood firm, his eyes locked on the retreating figures until they were completely out of sight. Only then did he slowly relax his stance, lowering his guard though he remained alert. Sam's heart was still pounding in his chest, and he breathed in shallow, trembling gasps. He sank to his knees beside Scout, his hands reaching out to grasp the dog's scruff in gratitude. "You saved me tonight, partner," he whispered softly, his voice thick with emotion. The bond between them was undeniable, forged through trust and loyalty, and Sam could feel it deep in his soul. He looked into Scout's dark eyes and saw something there, something that reminded him of the deep, unspoken bond he had once shared with his brothers in arms. It was a bond that transcended words, built on mutual respect and understanding. In that moment, Sam knew that Scout was more than just a dog. Scout was his protector, his companion, and above all, his friend. In the days that followed, Sam watched Scout with a dawning suspicion. The dog's behavior was too disciplined for a stray. He remembered training dogs in the core commands given with a whistle, intricate drills under gunfire. Could Scout have once worn a military harness? Sam resolved to learn more. His path led to the Midwest Veterans Outreach Center, a modest building, flanked by flags and the steady hum of hope. Inside, he met Olivia Garcia, a caseworker whose compassion shone behind wire-rimmed glasses. Sam described Scout's unwavering watch and uncanny obedience. Olivia, intrigued, agreed to help trace the dog's origins. They began with a microchip scan at a local vet. The scanner beeped once Scout was fitted with a chip, registered to K9 Unit 23 Bravo Company, Dog Bravo 7. A shiver ran down Sam's spine. They contacted the unit's records officer, who, after verifying Sam's veteran status, released Scout service record, deployed to Afghanistan, trained to detect IEDs, prisoned at Operation Red Dawn. One entry chilled them both. K9 Bravo 7 MIA after RPG ambush 06-14-14. For nearly a decade, Scout had been officially missing. In action. Like Sam, who had returned from combat to find no home at peace, Scout had been left behind. That night, Sam and Scout lay beneath a bridge where early morning light seeped through slats of concrete. Scout rested his head on Sam's lap, breathing quietly. Sam's hand rubbed the dog's side. "We're survivors, buddy," he whispered. "We know what it is to walk through hell and come back." Scout's tail thumped in silent accord. Sam vowed then to build a new life, not just for himself, but for Scout. He admitted his own scars, PTSD nightmares, a bottle that whispered false comfort. Scout, with unspoken loyalty, reminded him that second chances existed. He returned to Olivia's center, seeking enrollment in the Veterans and K9 Healing Program, a pilot initiative pairing veterans with former service dogs. Olivia smiled warmly as she greeted Sam and Scout. "Welcome home," she said, voice brimming with hope. Over the following weeks, as time passed and the days grew longer, Sam and Scout began to heal, each in their own way, and yet together as one. They embarked on a journey of therapy healing, a process where they learned to lean into each other's recovery, finding strength in the shared understanding of their struggles. Every step was a small victory, a testament to how far they had come. In those therapy sessions, held in a circle of veterans who shared similar burdens of the past, Sam began to rediscover a part of himself that had been buried beneath layers of grief and pain. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when the weight of his memories threatened to pull him back into the abyss. But in each session, through the support of others who had walked through the fire with him, he found the courage to keep moving forward. Sam's progress wasn't always marked by calm reflection or careful discussion. Sometimes it was through moments of chaos and release. The once still therapeutic circle of veterans would often transform into something entirely different, a burst of energy, as Scout, without hesitation, would sprint across the courtyard, his tail wagging furiously, as he eagerly fetched a ball thrown with unbroken enthusiasm. The energy of the dog seemed endless, and it reminded Sam of what it felt like to be alive, to be free, and to be joyful. Scout's wild sprint was more than just a game. It was a reminder that even in the midst of hardship, joy could still be found in the simplest of moments. As the days turned into weeks, Sam began to learn something that he had forgotten. Trust in others, which had once been shattered by the horrors he had endured. Trust in himself again, despite all the ways in which he had doubted his own worth. Trust was fragile, but it was still there, slowly rebuilding, like a foundation, being poured stone by stone. With Scout beside him, Sam felt a sense of safety, as if he could finally allow himself to be vulnerable, to let go of the armor he had built around his heart. It was not easy, but it was possible. Scout, too, was on his own path of recovery. He had been through so much alongside Sam, and now it was time for him to relearn the simpler pleasures of life, the ones that didn't involve survival or fear. Slowly, Scout relearned civilian life, those small moments that had once seemed mundane, but were now so precious. He got used to rides in cars again, no longer trembling with fear at the thought of being trapped. He learned to take leisurely walks through the park, his paws lightly tapping the ground as he strolled beside Sam, enjoying the sights and smells of the world around him. Belly rubs became a daily ritual, something Scout had once only dreamed of but now reveled in. Quiet cuddles in front of a gentle fire became their evening ritual, a peaceful routine that provided both comfort and connection. One afternoon, a particularly bright and clear day, the group of veterans and their dogs gathered for a graduation ceremony. It wasn't a grand event, but it was one filled with significance. Each veteran spoke of new beginnings, of how far they had come, and how their journeys were far from over. Their dogs, each one a loyal companion, sat proudly beside them, tails wagging as if they too understood the importance of this moment. Sam, his heart full but heavy with emotion, rose to his feet with Scout at his side. The ceremony had been emotional for everyone, but now, standing in front of the crowd, Sam felt a lump form in his throat. His gaze swept over the faces of the men and women who had, like him, known loss, hardship, and pain. They were no longer just individuals. They were a community, a family built on shared experiences and survival. Sam took a deep breath, steadying himself before speaking. "I was living on the edge of giving up," he began, his voice wavering slightly with the weight of his words. "I didn't know if I could keep going. if I had anything left to give. But Scout, he reminded me that loyalty can outlast the darkest night. He refused to leave my side no matter how low I got, and because of him I refused to leave his. We're in this together. We always will be. As Sam spoke, Scout gently nuzzled his hand, a simple but profound gesture that spoke volumes. It was as if Scout was telling him, "Always, I'm here. I'll never leave." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of Sam's words hanging in the air. It wasn't just a statement about loyalty. It was about survival, about the bond that had been forged through the deepest of struggles, and about the belief that no matter how broken they both had been, they could heal together. Empowered by his recovery, Sam founded Veterans and Vets, a non-profit offering training and adoption services for retired military dogs and their handlers. Scout, now officially retired but ever vigilant, became the organization's emblem, a statue, with 2 proud ears and a wagging tail. Together, they traveled the Midwest schools, VFW halls, city parks, sharing their story of redemption. One crisp autumn morning, Sam heard a familiar bark outside the center. A young man in uniform strode through the door, tears in his eyes. Beside him was a fellow German Shepherd Scout's old platoon partner from the unit in Afghanistan. They had tracked Scout's story and come to reenact the reunion for the center's veterans, symbolizing that no one is ever truly lost. Scout sniffed the newcomer, tail wagging in stunned joy. Sam watched, tears filling his eyes. Veterans and volunteers gathered around, forming a circle of support. 2 dogs, once comrades in war, now stood as ambassadors of peace. In the golden haze of late afternoon, Sam and Scout walked the center's quiet grounds. They passed raised garden beds where veterans tended vegetables, and a small memorial grove for dogs who never returned. Hand in paw, Sam glanced at Scout's grizzled muzzle, years of service etched in silver fur. "Ready for the next haul, partner?" Sam asked softly. Scout barked once, as if affirming their endless journey together. Sam Taylor and Scout showed that loyalty can heal the deepest wounds. 2 survivors, bound by duty and loss, forged a new purpose, reminding us that no one, human or hound, is ever truly alone when someone refuses to leave their side. If this story of courage and companionship touched you, please subscribe for more tales of healing and hope, because sometimes the greatest missions begin when we learn to trust again.